The structure of DNA and puzzle piece pairing of those nucleotide bases inspired another vital discovery, that one side of the DNA double helix can guide the formation of the other side. So in the first place, DNA is a self-assembling molecule. In biology, that's pretty rare. It is helped in the process with enzymes to speed it up, but in theory, all it needs are the parts and it will just build itself. And then on top of it, DNA is also self-replicating. It will form a copy of itself without any guidance. It doesn't need any brain. It doesn't need any instructions. It does this all through the complementary base pairing and also the hydrogen bonding. This is how information is carried on from one generation to the next, or from one cell to the next. And so replication is the process of cell reproduction in which DNA must copy and transmit all of its genetic information into the next new cell. This is an example of the DNA double helix, and basically all you have to do is take this apart, and you'll have two separate strands, and these separate strands will guide the formation of two new exact copies of the original DNA, and now you'll have two from the one, without any special process, only guided by complementary base pairing. For a species to carry its genetic information from one cell to the next, it has to copy that information. This involves the DNA double helix partially unwinding. And this opens up the DNA here, and you'll end up having a single strand. So here's a single strand, here's a single strand on either side, and that opening allows for building two new strands by this self-assembly where the matching complementary bases are brought in when the strands open up. Each single strand serves as a template for the synthesis of a new complementary strand, the pink one here or this pink one here. You'll end up from the one DNA helix building two DNA helices. So those two helices that are built are complete and they're identical to the original DNA helix molecule. This is how all the genetic information in the human genome, in all of those 46 chromosomes, are copied over in replication. And this happens not just for humans, but for every species, for every cell will copy its own DNA. Two DNA strands in the double helix of the parent DNA. One parent DNA will form two exact copies. Old DNA, which is in red, that's the parent strand, will self-assemble a new strand that's complementary to it. But meanwhile, that new strand is exactly the copy of the red original strand, this blue one. And so you'll have two exact same copies in what's called daughter DNA, and then these are the DNA that then will form two new cells that are same as the original cell with the original information. And this is how inheritance happens from one cell to the next.
DNA is the instruction manual for how to build life. From animals to plants to humans, it defines us all. Information is stored in DNA using 4 types of molecules, which come in pairs. We have billions of these pairs. DNA folds itself into paired packages called chromosomes, which are stored in the nucleus of cells. Each species has a different number of chromosomes. Humans have 46 chromosomes, which contain our genes. Genes act as instructions for molecules called proteins. In humans, genes vary in size from a few hundred DNA bases to more than 2 million bases, and we have an estimated 20,000 to 25,000 of these genes passed during reproduction. Each person has 2 copies of each gene, one inherited from each parent, and most genes are the same in all people except for a small number of genes being slightly different. These small differences contribute to each person's unique physical characteristics, varying from height, color, and personality traits. Some genes are dominant and some are recessive. Dominant genes are more often expressed as observable characteristics, while recessive genes are often masked by dominant genes. The recessive genes are expressed when inherited from both parents. While we share 98% of our DNA with bonobos and chimpanzees, we don't quite look alike because that 2% equals thousands and thousands of different genes. And while all humans share over 99% of our DNA with each other, what we don't share is what makes us unique in our own way.